So I think that we could all agree here that Bob Iger is by far the worst Disney CEO of all time, even outperforming Bob Chapek because of what he's been doing with his ongoing deliberate agenda, doubling down on DEI. Heck, they're even hiring a new DEI supervisor / manager with a $200,000 plus year salary to really kind of enhance that overall ideology for everything related to Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, and among other divisions connected to the Disney company. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So there's been a series of financial disasters connected to the Disney company, all because of Bob Iger's deliberate agenda. The biggest one of all had a lot to do with the Acolyte series by Leslie Headland and Kathleen Kennedy, as well as, of course, everything going on after its official cancellation. We've had a petition going on from Disney Star Wars fans that are really trying to get Season 2 reinstated. We also have, by the way, some outspoken Disney Star Wars fans that are trying to silence critics, which by far are the most pathetic on the entire platform. But what's interesting about this has a lot to do with the Acolyte Season 2 in particular, and Season 1, and the overall financial disaster that's been going on with Bob Iger. Now, specifically, we know that the Disney CEO is constantly going into a series of damage control scenarios, trying to really kind of cover up everything related to the finances of the Acolyte, what went wrong with the ratings disaster, as well as the reviews of this actual series. But what's interesting about this moving forward is that we have a lot of things going on here, given that Bob Iger and the Disney heads already are receiving endless backlash after many projects doubled down on their DEI agenda. One major development now has more to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger and his stance with the Acolyte backlash and cancellation, along with the Star Wars boycott going on right now. Now, Iger delivered the following. As CEO, it is my responsibility to remain transparent both to our customers and shareholders alike. In regards to one of our favorite divisions, Lucasfilm, I wanted to address the ongoing undeserved criticisms surrounding the Acolyte, our latest Star Wars installment on Disney+. What we here at the Walt Disney Company find to be truly offensive and inflammatory to our loyal customer base, those who claimed our role here at Disney and supervising our division Lucasfilm to embrace DEI as a part of any kind of an agenda is not only very damaging but also unwanted behavior coming from a small minority of fans that remain very loud and so happen to be a part of our customer base as well. We believed our decision to not move forward with another season for the Acolyte was the right move to make. However, the false narrative is that we made this decision due to a seemingly small number of loud fans that remain persistent in creating their own narrative about why we decided to cancel Season 2. This was nothing more than an experimental choice to try different and new tales for the Star Wars franchise and not connected to any level of so-called backlash or boycott against our respected brand that we have had the liberty to create endless successful stories about. I am, however, unwilling to comment about our merchandise situation in regards to the Acolyte, as that is something that we are willing to answer at another time. Those that enhance the narrative that Disney was part of any kind of an agenda for the Acolyte series, I believe those same individuals don't even know what an agenda even really means. If that means our support for representation and our usage of DEI is a problem, then that is simple as an issue with those that remain opposed to our methods for using that to gravitate toward a wider, more global audience for our many brands like Star Wars. Canceling Season 2 was not an easy decision to make, and I know Kathy would have enjoyed a different outcome, and it took much convincing to finally move on from that story. Now guys, before I move on from what Bob Iger is saying here, is the fact that he will never admit failure, he will never admit the financial disaster, and this, by the way, I think, is him basically taking it out on the general public, taking his anger out on the fans who really wanted nothing to do with the Acolyte series. The majority of the Star Wars fan base will all agree universally that the Acolyte is a colossal failure. Now look, like I said earlier in this video, you have some outspoken Disney Star Wars fans that are desperately trying to silence critics out there. It's done in the most pathetic way possible, and I will be very honest about that. But when you look at things like this, when you look at things like Bob Iger trying to really cover up what's been going on with Lucasfilm and saying that their reasoning of canceling the Acolyte Season 2 had nothing to do with their financial meltdown, or anything to do with the boycott from Star Wars fans, or the backlash, or the official Nielsen ratings reports. That is just a blatant lie by Bob Iger. This is why I like to call him Bob Liger. He will say whatever he has to say to keep the shareholders intact, to keep the funds coming in from BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Of course he's never going to admit that they caved to canceling the Season 2 of The Acolyte because of the agenda, because of Amandla Stenberg's music video drama. We talked about that as well. That was also, by the way, a major factor into why they decided to cancel Season 2, and this was all done behind the scenes. She got a lot of backlash from that, internally speaking, from the Disney executives, based on how she mocked Star Wars fans, mocked the Acolyte critics, and more. Moving on, he goes on to conclude, but what is wrong behavior that is not deserved is by blaming the creative team behind this series, along with casting a narrative on the Walt Disney Company that they are part of some kind of a culture war. I am here to confirm that. That is so far from the truth and completely false. Our goal is to provide agenda-free entertainment that focuses on magical stories and tales. We tried this with The Acolyte, and we felt that we should do something new to enhance our library of new tales to tell. This has nothing to do with our performance with ratings as much as a certain narrative would like to convince those otherwise. So, again, the fact that Bob Iger doesn't believe, or he's trying to create that image that he doesn't believe, that the ratings had anything to do with his decision, or the board of directors' decision, to canceling this actual terrible series, by the way, by Lucasfilm, is just another failure on Disney's front. The fact that they lied to the general public, that they will never admit failure, especially when it comes to Lucasfilm, right? When it comes to Lucasfilm, they will never ever admit failure in a more explicit way. They will never do that. Whether it's from Iger or Kathleen Kennedy or anybody else high up in the ranks, they will never do that. And there's a reasoning behind that as to why I say Lucasfilm is the worst division over at the Walt Disney Company for multiple reasons. This being one of them. The fact that they will double down time and time again, just like what they're doing right now with the Rey movie, by the way. They have another activist on board that presents herself basically as a director. We're talking about Charmin Obaid-Chinoy. Alright, there's no doubt about that. And everything else moving forward. So again, I think that Bob Iger knows that the walls are closing in, that many Star Wars fans have already abandoned ship, that the recent Disney Plus subscribers that really kind of dipped a little bit, most of that had to do, by the way, with those that were subbed strictly and only for Star Wars material, whether it's the shows coming out or the movies that are already on there. People are just being very, getting very apathetic at this point with the brand. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.